So today I'm gonna be talking about the reading A New Mystique, Working for Yourself in the Neoliberal Economy by Stephanie Taylor. And so what this reading is basically about is about self-employment and working for yourself in the neoliberal economy. And the author compares it to the creative workforce and talks about how the field is very gendered and the misconceptions and the struggles versus the perks of self employment in a neoliberal economy. Taylor talks about how self employment is increasing in the UK, and so the numbers have grown significantly since 2018 and continue to rise. Where in 2014 they did a study and they found out that self employed people make up 15% of the employment rate. And so this is because there's something that Taylor coins, I guess, as the new mystique, which is basically inviting people back into the house. So it's kind of she terms it as resembling the housewife trap, which is basically moving people from paid labor in a company, let's say like traditional work, back into like the domestic environment of the home. And it follows a lot of romanticization about like entrepreneurship, working for yourself, all of that, and doing what you love. And so to build upon the whole romanticization of working for yourself, the new mystique like encourages the worker to accept neoliberal working conditions, like endure hardships, like uh, unstable income flow, and yeah, and so it does that through the romanticization of working for yourself. But however, the author mentions that like despite it being romanticized, she found out that a lot of the case is like most of the case is that they struggle a lot, and not in like a starving artist kind of way that's very romanticized, very real consequences. And so there's also like she mentions a case that like there are a lot of people who are self-employed part-time, so they have day jobs, but also when they come back home they're self-employed, they continue another business, so that there's that sense of stability, but also trying to stay financially afloat through self-employment and extra jobs. So why does self-employment seem as attractive as it is? So one, in 2018, when self-employment was rising or began rising, um, there was a recession worldwide, I guess. And so recession means there's no um, paying jobs, and so the idea of creating your own job for yourself so you can get your income seems more ideal. Another reason being that the UK workforce is better qualified now but less satisfied with the workforce itself and the employment responsibilities and environments. Also, there's increased work strain in a normal working environment, so working for yourself seems more attractive because you control the conditions under which you work. Um, there's more autonomy in self employment. It puts their skills to better use, so no one's dictating how you put your skills. You yourself put your skills and refine them and use them for more productivity. And then finally, there's the humanization part. So self work, self employment offers the humanization that they seek in a normal paying job, like a full time job. So then Taylor takes a more gendered route to explain self employment, and she begins by talking and starting off the dialogue with the concept of mompreneurs. And so basically, mompreneurs are women who set up a business to be able to work and care for their children. And so basically, they slowly found out that it's more about like um, wrapping your job around caring for your children rather than juggling both of them together. And so that created a lot of problems. They faced more issues when they brought the work to the home, and they had to juggle care work, emotional work, effective labor with together, all of them together. And so one of the issues is that there are longer working hours because your work and home life kind of merge together, and there's the aspect of caring for your children and then working and doing domestic stuff and working. So it's kind of like there's an encroachment there. There's they face like a lot of time and space conflicts, which causes more stress, and it's very child centered. So basically, it's emotionally involving and time consuming. So if you didn't watch my first video, this is basically gonna be Hannah's thought bubble where I put my own thoughts into the reading and the video. And so my first thought is that concerning the working moms and mompreneurs, this is what moms are dealing with in COVID times. So basically, like, moms have to work from home remotely while at the same time their children are home because they're not at school. And so a lot of moms have faced like homeschooling because it's not the same and they need to teach their kids and they hold more responsibility and working at the same time. So these things can blend. So I think nowadays people can relate more to this and more to self employment because of COVID and working from home. And so Taylor uses a really cool concept that I really liked called presence bleed. And so it's basically where everything merges, like your home life and your work, everything merges together and it creates a lot of problems. And so she compares this concept and mompreneurs to self employment, to the average person, whether you're a mom, a man, a woman that's not a mom. And so, yeah. And so she basically talks about how, like, the home was a place of, like, unpaid domestic labor. You get to see your kids. It's a place where, like, you and your family, like, merge together. It's not like everyone goes their separate ways. You come back to your home. That's the community you come back to. And where, like, your values, traditions are heightened. But now, since, like, self-employers or self-employees work from home, the aspects and factors and lifestyle of home and the aspects, lifestyles, and whatever of work blend together. And although that may seem nice because you're working from home and you can control your working conditions, it actually reflected very negatively. The gist of it is that self-employment is a very feminized workplace, since it includes like the domesticity of the home coming into your work and affecting your work. But even though it's feminized, fun fact, not many women are self-employed. They are increasing, like the female population and demographic in the self-employment industry is increasing. But according to a study, women make up less than half of self-employed people in the UK. So adding on to the problems of self-employment or working from home, so there are much more problems. One is that you earn less. Two, your earnings fall faster during a recession rather than a stable job. And you're less likely to contribute to a pension fund, and you have poor prospects of growing your business and growing as a self-employer. Then Taylor goes on to talk about and study an article released by The Guardian, written by, I can't pronounce her name, but Emine Saner, Emini, I don't know. But anyways, it's the author interviews self-employed people and discusses their work life and how it is, and, like, working from home. And three things struck me the most about this article. Firstly, is the name of the article and the consistent use of some terminology. So basically, the name of the article is Cottage Industries, All Homework and No Play. And then she keeps using the word cottage industry and entrepreneurship. And I have a few thoughts on that. Even Taylor mentions that, like, using the term cottage implies like coziness and working from home, and you're very comfortable and you dictate everything and whatever. But like, I have a problem with both words of entrepreneurship and cottage, is that, and with the entire article, is that she kind of uh, tries to turn self-employment into more positive light. And like, I guess it is, I don't want to strip it of that, but at the same time, it adds on to the romanticization of neoliberal labor and working under these conditions. Like, entrepreneurship, as I'm later going to talk about, is that like, it's like, yes, success, and like you're guaranteed, like, you make your own rules and everything, and like it encourages people to live out this dream, whereas it's a very precarious work field. And it's the same thing with the word cottage. It's not as cozy, and like from the previous examples I've said, it's anything but. And her interviewees even say so, like I'm gonna further discuss. The second thing that strikes me as interesting about this article and Taylor's study of it is the fact that it reflects everything that Taylor has been talking about like the struggles and like the precariousness of self-employment. And the interviewees in the article talk about this and reaffirm these notions, and like they talk about, like, they reaffirm the fact that, like, that work and home life is very like hard to balance and juggle. And so basically, like, there's a sense of like responsibility to stay afloat, because like you're not working like a 9 to 5 and you're guaranteed an income. So there's this sense of responsibility to keep yourself afloat. And now that they don't have a stable income, they make their own income technically. A lot of them said like they have no holidays. Any profit that they make goes back into the business. Like, they don't take it for themselves. It's not as luxurious as a lot of people make it out to be. And they spend a lot of money on intellectual property and trying to protect their businesses. And they don't have time for like social relationships. And interestingly enough, they don't interact as much with people. So making social connections, business connections, isn't as easy as a 9 to 5 job. Also, small little note, back to like the feeling of responsibility. I feel like there's also that feeling of guilt that comes. It happens regardless in like a capitalist environment and economy, that we all feel guilt, but I feel like guilt is heightened as a person who works from home, because like, if like right now, like in corona times, a lot of people feel guilt that if they're not doing something or like working, because they're in their home, so like there's no clear barrier of like, okay, work and then home. No, it's all home. You're at home, you're working, whatever. So like, there's that guilt of like, okay, if I'm actually like doing something at home, like as in leisure time, that's considered less productive, like I can be working. So yeah, guilt comes with the neoliberal economy. The third part that really interested me about this article and Taylor's study of it is how she paralleled it with the creative workforce, and how it's very gendered, but not in the way that we might think it is. So basically, she goes on to talking how entrepreneurship and the creative field and creative artists are very similar in their like work, because like creative artists don't have much of a stable job. Like everything that workers from home and self-employers and whatever also applies to creative workers in general in their work field, not necessarily whether they work from home or whatever. They're usually freelance. It's more I guess like uh, contract jobs, and it's a lot of neoliberal labor. And she goes on to compare these two, entrepreneurship and the creative artists, to a more masculine field. And she says this is because of like dominant notable figures. So basically, like um, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, all of these guys who like worked from their garage or whatever, they were self-employed. They started it from the ground up. And so like there's this kind of masculinity, like the heroic, she even says it, like heroic self-made man that like rejects the conditions of the mainstream economy and whatever, and makes it and everything. So like it's a very heroic thing, and that's only seen as a man thing. However, as we've previously mentioned, and as I'm going to talk about now, it's not. It's very feminized. And just to like wrap up how it's not masculine, it's just working conditions are found to be more inclined to lean towards like affective labor, emotional care, emotional labor. And so that's how it's feminized. It's actually not masculine at all. And so, yeah, that's the whole concept of the new Mystique. It's basically a big, fat romanticization of entrepreneurship and self employment, where it's actually much more harder than that, and it's more precarious than that, and it's a very feminized work field, although men dominated one. And so, and we can learn that like from like a lot of literature, especially like a lot that we studied in class, that neoliberal labor is feminized in general. Like, yeah, so we gotta reflect on that.